Well, yes, indeed. Quite a number of activities are expected to take place today, just with a build-up to the inauguration. But while that is going on, the courts are also having their session. But we'll take you through some of those items today in the dailies. And here, joining us to take us through some of them, Nuruddin Abdallah, editor, 21st Century Chronicles, a former assistant editor of Daily Trust. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamberlain. Good morning.
Okay, let's start off with Vanguard newspaper. Now, this was what transpired yesterday, so all over the place it is. Look at the lead story. Presidential poll drama as LP factions clash at tribunal. So you get to see the first of the riders here. Lamidi Akwakwa, factional chairman, attacked in court. Court adjourns petition till Friday. And then you say this, if not for God, I'd have died in court. That's correct, Papa. Denies receiving 500 million naira to scuttle Obi's case against Tinubu. NEC frustrating my petition against Tinubu. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's what we see here, though. And then you see insist on Rivers, Sokoto elections, interest, Obi, LP refused to pay one. There's just so much of these riders here associated with this lead story. And these are even the preliminary scenarios. You haven't even gotten to the meat of the matter. Well, does this surprise you in any way? You faced by all of this?
Yeah, not really. I think history seems to be repeating itself. If you remember in 2007, after President Muhammad Buhari, then General Muhammad Buhari retired, contested and lost election against Erdogan. You remember he went to court, just like Peter Obi of Labour Party did. But what happened later? His party, then led by later Ume Izueki, withdrew the petition from the Presidential Election Tribunal and joined the Erdogan unity government, you remember. So that's what happened. So at the end of the day, unlike what we saw yesterday, it was actually despicable. There was no such drama. But the party left the presidential candidate alone. At the end of the day, he lost out from the court. So it's usual for the winning party, to instigate all this crisis from behind the scene. Because what happened yesterday actually was horrible.
You think this is one of such cases from behind the scene?
Apparently, you understand. And look at what is even happening in states. Some factions of the opposition party are joining the winning party, even though the candidates are in court. So we saw this thing in 2007. Buhari was left in the while Ume Zueki, some AP, then NPP governors joined the unity government. I think this is we can see the hands of the ruling party from behind the scene instigating.
In other words, you think that we definitely haven't seen or heard the last of this matter?
Apparently.
Well, I guess we'll see. It's part of what we'll also focus on this morning as we proceed. And then beneath that lead story, Anambra, US vows to fish out killers of embassy staff. Death toll rises to 10. No American killed, ascribed to US. Buhari saddened by killings. And it's many didn't know what exactly to make of this. When it did happen, a lot was hazy in terms of the scenario, what transpired, why, so many questions concerning this. Could it be the last of it? How did this happen in the first place? So many things, but what went through your mind when you got the story?
You see, on the build-up to the February-March general election, all these incidences, seems to have vanished with time. But unfortunately, they keep on recurring. Before even the embassy, something, take Kaduna, for instance. The issue of mass kidnapping of worshippers, just reimagine. You saw what happened in Chiku local government. About 50 were kidnapped while observing church service. Birnungwari. Look at what is even happening in Niger. It seems that at the beginning, the military has succeeded, in tackling the... But is it because the military is now overstretched, or is more concerned with the elections or what have you, that if you look at the banditry issue, going to Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, and now even to the east, including Nassau here? You understand? So I think the security agencies need to up their ante.
But how much of this is about the security agencies and not about, say, the commander-in-chief? If you had a different commander-in-chief, for instance, who, I'm not saying this one hasn't, but if we hear and see on a regular basis saying, listen, insisting on certain things be done, up and about, hands-on, are we likely to have a different result?
Certainly, maybe when we have a new commander-in-chief and he selects the commanders, you can't be faster than the principal. That's the reality.
I see.
Apparently. So we hope that maybe by May 29.
But what does that mean, though? You can't be faster. You have a duty as a security officer, professional, well-trained. Are they supposed to be looking to him to make an arrest or something?
Not really. First and foremost, the people you have appointed as commanders, what is their competence and what is the criteria you use? Some of them are just mediocres. Some of them, maybe they were even appointed for reasons other than merit and professionalism. So you can't expect, if it is not Panadol, it is not the same as Panadol. You can't give what you don't have. And you know, we saw it coming. Look at the array of the security, the head of the agencies. There are a lot of complaints, but the president and commander-in-chief doesn't see it the way Nigerians see it. He believes that maybe there are certain things that he considers apart from functionality.
Would you say that the people who surround him, his aides, do they have a role? Do they take part of the blame here as well?
Apparently, and unfortunately, you know, it's an open secret. I don't need to, they're just neophytes, you know. They add almost zero value to the governance, to what the president is doing. Look at them. Look at them.
Who precisely are you referring to? I'm just a little curious. Who are those you refer to as neophytes?
Maybe without mentioning names. Okay, with the demise of Abakari, the chief of staff, look at what is happening in the villa. The infighting alone. Is it the wife of the president, the nephew of the president? You look at it. So it simply means that nobody seems to be in charge. So it's apparent, you know. We hope that, you know, in the next 2 weeks...
Those are not the people that have been appointed. Those are people that are his family members. I mean, oftentimes you cannot select who your family members are, can you? Apart from, of course, the choice of your wife. But even then, if there are internal wranglings, internal family wranglings between a wife and your nephew, what really can you do about it?
The nephew holds a very sensitive political office. He's the personal assistant to the president. Some are even saying de facto chief of staff. Okay. So you know what that means.
Okay, I want to take a look at Daily Trust now. It has a different kind of headline. It has this: federal government to replace striking doctors with ad hoc staff. There's a lead story here. Our demands must be met. Patients groan, activities grounded in hospitals. So it's the same as the second day of their 5-day warning strike. Federal government is saying it's going to employ ad hoc staff. What are your own thoughts on this latest strike action?
I think in the last 8 years, you know, the issue of resident doctors strike, you know, has not been handled, to my mind, very well by this administration. This is not the first time they are threatening them with this. You remember, we had a minister in Nigeria who said that some doctors will be better off as tailors. You remember? We had a minister in this government who said that some doctors will be better off as tailors.
That's so ridiculous.
So this is a thinking of somebody that has been appointed, you know, to look to administer the health matters of the country. What are the issues? Just like the ASU issue. What are the issues? Why can't you address them? But unfortunately, we have a labor minister who is equally a medical doctor, or can we say former, I don't know, a medical doctor, but very combative. He compounded matters.
Interestingly, the ANAD don't seem to be at loggerheads with him. Instead, they are at loggerheads with their own minister, the Minister of Health.
Madam Ope, that's what I said. The other time, it was the same Minister of Health, a medical doctor, that said that his colleagues can be better off as tailors. He said that his tailor is a medical doctor. You can see how insulting that can be. It's a simple matter. I don't know. I hope the incoming president, will look at these things and don't allow all the mistakes by this administration. It's an industrial dispute. It can be resolved. You want 100 naira, I don't have 100 naira, I have 40, 50. Take it. It's as simple as that.
Let me take you up on this. This one is something that concerns well, not everyone, but at least those who have been through some higher institution, and it doesn't matter whether they go on to tailoring. We got jobs while serving. That's according to Pioneer Corps members. And Go On says, my aim of creating NYSC as National Youth Service Corps not defeated. This is coming on the heels of the NYSC celebrating 50 years. It sparked conversation now as to whether or not it's a scheme that should continue. What are your thoughts on NYSC as a body? Are you proud of it? Do you think it's something that should continue, or we should reform it?
If you look at it, the scheme was created immediately after the Civil War.
Indeed.
To unite the country. Are we united 50 years after? But unfortunately, Nigeria, there are institutions, schemes that were on ad hoc basis, just like the NYSC. I think it has overstayed its usage. But unfortunately, with the 30K, coppers are now being paid, They look at it, some organizations use it as a sweet shop. They get cheap labor. And some of the coppers, there are no jobs. So they believe that 1 year they serve. Some are even cutting ways to repeat it because of the 30K. So that is it. But I think that the essence, the one, established this thing has overstayed its usage.
Did you serve?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your service here?
Not really, because at that time, was it 7K or is it 11?
Was it the money you were looking at or the knowledge you gained?
Different story for different folks, I guess.
It was 7.
People concerned now about the money.
Oh dear. Let's go to Lagos. I'm sure my colleagues have other papers for you.
In the conversation, Margaret, but the jury is out on whether the NYSC has truly helped united Nigeria 50 years down the line. But let's shift now to Leadership newspaper as we take a look at the big story. This is still coming on the back of the induction program for Nigerian governors. And take a look at this headline: Nigeria heading for debt crisis, governors warn. The riders go this way, say debt servicing taking 95% of revenue as PNB seeks reps approval for $800 million World Bank loan. Well, Mr. Abdallah, some would say that, weeks or days down to handover date, this administration is just waking up and putting up its robe of service. And the governors are also towing the same path, saying that, look, we're headed for a very bad place with debt. Why now?
It's most unfortunate, so to say, particularly if you pick the contending issue now of the $800 million loan from the World Bank. The Buhari administration is saying that it will serve as a palliative for when eventually a subsidy is removed. But since the federal government is not removing subsidy, why can't you allow the incoming administration to remove subsidy and to source its own palliative? Why are you spending the palliative now while the subsidy is still there?
Well,
again,
Mr. Abdallah,
maybe the
spending of palliatives has not begun yet. If you listen to the rider, it says PNB seeks reps approval for the $800 million World Bank loan. So it is still at the pre-approval stage if we went by this headline.
Yes, that's what we are saying. Why the rush? Let him remove the subsidy first, but he's shifting the subsidy, which is the thorniest issue to the next incoming government, while getting loan for the palliatives. Why? He's putting the cart before the horse. And secondly, unfortunately, you know, during the Obasanjo era, there were amendments. Before Obasanjo came, local government chairman equally get even foreign loans. But there are amendments. Every state government must have to come through the National Assembly to get their loans, particularly foreign loan, approved. But now, who will checkmate them? The federal government that should checkmate the state governors in terms of foreign loan, you know, is the chief debtor. He gets all the loans from whoever is willing to give. And at the end of the day, look at some of the states. They get the loans. Ask, where are the projects? None. Or the loans obtained by these state governors, you know, there are no projects worth 1/3 of the money. So it's the same thing with the federal government. And it's a source of concern. Look at the books by
you know, Mr. Abdallah,
DMO has...
You make a point that cannot be ignored about, you know, both federal and states being guilty of, you know, foreign loans. But if the governors speak in one voice where debt is concerned now, do you think that their unity of purpose will be strong enough to prevail on the federal government of the incoming administration to take a more prudent action where revenue expenditure is concerned?
Yes, I think we hope that the incoming administration, you know, is more, the president is more economically literate compared to the one we have now. And I hope he will look that way. Increase the revenue base of the country and ensure that the governors equally increase their revenue, the IGR base. Take some of the states now. There are a series of bailouts by the federal government. But some of the states, despite this series of bailouts by the federal government, they are still owing even salaries, pensions, not to talk of capital projects. Or whenever they even get the monies, you know, they invest, they share it. Instead of investing the money in capital projects that will bring money, no, they share them. So we hope the incoming administration, you know, will put a stop to this.
Yeah, quite instructive there. Quite instructive there. Yeah. We hope that they'll take a cue from some of the points that you have made. Let's leave it there for Leadership newspaper now.
And turn our attention to the Nigerian Tribune with this lead story. U.S. Secretary of State Tinubu in 20-minute phone call. Atiku expresses disbelief. There's a host of riders. You see, Blinken advises on inclusive leadership, stresses U.S.-Nigeria partnership. Tinubu wants assistance on security, economic investment, and then there's a statement or response from the PDP presidential candidate saying this is inconceivable, a contradiction to give legitimacy to widely acknowledged fraudulent election, demoralizing to citizens. Or the U.S. Secretary of State, or at least the Department of State, has put up a statement to that effect about the phone call. But what do you make about this debate around the phone call, whether or not it legitimizes the election when the cases are in court? What's your take on it?
So I don't know what the opposition parties are crying about. It's just a phone call. By our laws, Asuaji Tinubu is the president-elect until the courts decide otherwise. So I see no reason why the United States government or the Secretary of State Blinken will look at what he did as something abnormal. So let the court decide. They are in court actually. So let's see what happens. And again, Tinubu is taking over a government in the next 2 weeks or so. So he needs all the support, particularly of the Western powers, in tackling insecurity. And look at it, the phone call came at the same time some United States consular staff were killed in Anambra. The president-elect must be worried. This is the first time that such things happen. If it were in the northeast or north central or northwest, it's understandable. But in the southeast, the insecurity is expanding its frontiers, you understand? So it should be an issue of concern to the president-elect. I see no reason why Atiku or whoever should be worried. If the court decide otherwise, the Americans and whoever, they have to know who to deal with.
Right.
So I think it's as clear as that.
Well, there's this other story on health on the front page, just to mention 25,380 Nigeria's PHCs lack required skilled birth attendants. That's credited to the NPHCDA. So if we have just about 30,000 primary health care centers and over 25,000 of them lack required skilled birth attendants, it's just, that's what, over 80%. That's quite shocking. So it's just to mention for the appropriate authorities. And the statement you made about the Minister of Health, I think you were referring to the former Minister of Health, not the current Minister of Health, the conversation around the Taylor and all of that. It was a former, not the current, just in case people are wondering. But that's the Nigerian Tribune for you. Shebele.
All right, let's take a look at the Guardian next. That's the next one we've got here. Battle in states as 18 ministers lobby Tinubu to retain portfolio. Yeah, you thought that, wait a minute, they want to sit tight? But wait, let me even get your opinion first. Just go ahead and see. What do you think of this one this time?
So I think the president-elect, it's a mistake to populate the cabinet with former governors who have thoroughly failed to deliver good governance in their various states.
Former governors?
Who have thoroughly failed to deliver good governance in their various states.
Oh.
Yes. Take the Buhari government, for instance. We have a minister who was a former minister now because he resigned to contest the presidential election. He was Speaker of his State Assembly for 8 years. He was governor for 8 years. He was minister for 8 years. Are you the only Nigerian? Or some governors in the State Assembly now, in the National Assembly now, they were governors. I know someone who was deputy governor for 8 years, governor for 8 years, and now he has won the 4th Senate.
No, they didn't choose themselves.
What it means simply is this. What have they done in their various states that they want to remain put? Some they have converted the National Assembly as if it is a traditional stool. So I hope it will be a mistake to bring former governors. Maybe you can pick 1, 2, or 3, and based on their track record back in their states.
No, these are the current ministers. 18 ministers lobby to retain their portfolio. So all the 7 ministers want to make sure
that would be the grave mistake that will happen.
So they should just, after the valedictory FEC, they should just go home from there. That's enough.
Okay, to be fair to them, some of them, maybe just less than 10%. Or let's do this even analysis. Let everybody go back to his constituency and do a small election. Let there be a referendum. Do you want him to go back to Abuja or not? Majority of them will not.
But what if there are 1 or 2 performing ministers, and the president-elect or president, when he's sworn in, says, "Okay, you know what? You all elected me. Let me do this. Trust my judgment. I want to pick 1, 2, or 3 to do this job with me."
Like the minister of Abuja or Power.
I don't know. You suggest. It's up to you to suggest.
There are certain ministers, even bringing them to the federal cabinet is a mistake. Let's not repeat it. There are 1 or 2, actually, that perform. I don't want to mention names, but we know them. And we know those that when we see them on the street, they need to be flogged for wasting our time.
No, let's not instigate the mob against anyone. But take a look quickly now at New Telegraph, and they have this NAS leadership crisis. APC moves to break G6 opposition alliance. So that's a lead story on the New Telegraph now. Opts for open contests to brief Tinubu governors, Wasi, Betara, Jaji, others close in on consensus. So you see right there, focusing on the leadership crisis, or will I say the leadership contest, because some people will say it's not yet a crisis within the APC. But let us see what I think you've already commented on that. So let's take a look at this request, which is also making the headlines here. Presidential Tribunal, Tinubu opposes live coverage of proceedings. What are your thoughts on live coverage?
I don't know
of
why
the proceedings in court?
The winning party, the APC, is against it. Let it be. Maybe if there were live coverage, what the drama that happened yesterday, maybe that's what they're avoiding. We will see more dramas.
But this is not the substance of the matter. It doesn't even affect their own case per se. This is just something on the side.
Yeah, maybe
the judges will decide what they decide.
Exactly. So I don't know why the APC is against it. Let it be. You have won election. You believe that you won. I mean, let Nigerians see the judges, see your lawyers arguing for and against. You understand? So that by the time it's televised live, if it is confirmed or otherwise, Nigerians will. So I don't think it should be an issue. Understand? It shouldn't be an issue. Maybe thankfully the judges will decide whether they want to see their faces or not.
No, but I think at some point, for some cases, cameras were allowed, but they were backing
the judges.
So who knows what type they would allow
but
this
mostly
time.
when they are delivering the final judgment.
Okay, so at that point, maybe
long hours, very monotonous. But maybe they want to see the drama. They want to see whose lawyer is vocal, which one has points.
So it'll become a TV drama of sorts.
Apparently.
It'll be a good series. Not bad.
Well, let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Okay, I guess that wraps it up then. With a look at some of the dailies here this morning. Nuruddin Abdallah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, and former assistant editor of the Daily Trust. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. Thank you, Madam Magbe.